So I hope you'll get a question out, but I thought I would start off by telling you about a book I read and reading you a couple of quotes from a book I read about the Great Depression. There was a book last year called The Forgotten Man. It's written by a young woman named Amity Slays, and it's about FDR, the campaign for president in 1932, the New Deal, and that sort of thing. And she quotes at the first of her book two different views on who's being left out, who's the forgotten American. The first quote is from FDR when he was running for president in 1932. FDR said this: "These unhappy times," we're certainly living in unhappy times, "call for the building of plans that rest upon the forgotten, that put their faith once more in the forgotten man at the bottom of the economic pyramid." So FDR's view of who the forgotten American is, it was the lowest on the economic scale, was the forgotten man. Now another view was given back in 1883 by a gentleman at Yale University named William Graham Sumner. And his quote is longer than FDR's quote, so I'll just paraphrase it. But basically, William Graham Sumner said this: "Imagine there are four men, Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, and Mr. X. Mr. A notices a problem that Mr. X is having. Mr. A and Mr. B get together to come up with a solution for the problem Mr. X is having. And guess what Mr. A and Mr. B decide? Mr. C should do something to help Mr. X." And William Graham Sumner said about Mr. C, "I call him the forgotten man. He's the man who is never thought of. He works, he votes, generally he prays, but he always pays." I'll let y'all tell me who's the forgotten man in the United States in the year 2010. Who's the forgotten man when it comes to the $3 trillion in national debt that we have accumulated in our federal government in just the last 21 months, since January of 2009. Since the inauguration of President Obama, our House, our Senate, and our executive branch have added $3 trillion to the national debt. Now, before that date, it was $10 trillion, and we've been adding to it way too fast. But it had taken us that long, up until 2009, to accumulate $10 trillion. The startling thing is that we've added $3 trillion in the space of less than 2 years. That's the startling thing. To me, who is the forgotten man in that equation? I think the forgotten man is little Caroline McPhillips, my only grandchild. She's 7 months old. She's bright. She's precious. She's obviously going to earn a lot of money in her lifetime because she's so smart and capable. Obviously popular. But we're saddling her and her generation with a debt that we're not willing to pay. And I have a friend, Tom Coburn, in the U.S. Senate, and he calls it outright generational theft. We have things that we want at the federal level, and in their wisdom, the House and the Senate and the administration have said, we can't afford those things, but we want them anyway, and we're just going to pass that bill on to a future generation. Tom Coburn calls that generational theft. Those future generations that will have to deal with this are the forgotten Americans in that equation. What about in the area of this health care bill? I hope and we've got the press here, and I appreciate the press. I hope I've been clear enough in my speeches and in my communications over the last 2 years that I vigorously opposed this health care bill when it came before the U.S. Senate. To me, the forgotten American in the health care bill was actually the American voter. It was no secret to me that Americans, from the very beginning of this debate, wanted health care reform, but they did not want this particular bill. They wanted something step by step. They wanted a market-based approach, and they wanted to target the problems separately rather than a comprehensive big government takeover. This bill that has passed and is the law of the land, it cuts Medicare. And the American people have known this for quite some time. It takes $500 billion out of a program that is already in financial hardship, and it puts this in the new program. The American people didn't want us to cut Medicare, but the House and Senate did it anyway. The bill puts a huge burden on states, and it puts a huge burden on the state of Mississippi. No question about it. Does everyone understand that Medicaid is partially funded by the federal government and partially funded by the state taxpayers? Well, what Congress and the President have now done is greatly expand this Medicaid program and decide that for most states, the federal government will pay their part, but for most states, their taxpayers are mandated to pay the extra portion that the additional coverage will cost. I asked Governor Barber the other day, I said, how are you going to pay for this? You know, I voted against it, and of course the governor acknowledged I voted against it. And he said, Roger, there's no choice. The state legislature is going to have to raise taxes. The only question the legislature will have is, do we raise income tax or sales tax? But if this stands, if this law is not repealed or it's not struck down by the courts, the state of Mississippi will have to raise taxes to pay for something that somebody in Washington, D.C. decided was good policy. The American people didn't want this. Y'all watch Tennessee politics.